Ladies and gentlemen, it's the one and only Dog Waters, and I need to say something really, really quickly to you. For whatever reason, there's a segment of the Dogman community that believes that every time someone uploads a piece of content about Dogman, it has to be new. I want to make it clear I am not a Dogman worshiper. I worship my Lord and Savior Jesus Christ. And so all my energy does not go into seeking down and trying to find a Dogman encounter. So you will hear reruns here on this channel. That's just a matter of fact. If you don't like it, move on. Or if you don't like it, sign up at imdarkwaters.com and listen to some of the content that is there. The issue that we face here is if I upload a Dogman story, it'll get 5 to 10,000, even 30,000 views. If you upload anything other than Dogman, nobody listens. So you guys are relegated to this box of Dogman, and I'm fine with it. But I'm not going to create or lie or do anything to bring something new to the table that's not real and perpetuate these beings and make them more popular than they need to be. I'm not going to create a mysticism around them that doesn't exist. So, you can listen to what we got. You can sign up at imdarkwaters.com, or you can hold it down and wait till we vet some more stories. Now, if you really, I got a great idea. If you really want some new stuff, here's something you can really do. I put out a whole sighting map. Go on, pick one of them locations on that map and head on over there. You yourself, that person who's like, oh, I want something new. You head on over to that map, because I'm the only person that put out a sighting map. Go to my map. Go into those areas. Have an encounter. Come back and tell us all what happened to you. How about that? Matter of fact, do that.
What is a hodag and where do you find one? We've come to Hoodoo Mountain Resort in the middle of Central Oregon off of San Am Pass to find out what it's all about. Founded in 1938, the ski area has 800 acres of terrain with 34 runs, 5 lifts, 3 of those are quads, 1 triple and 1 double, the double being Easy Rider where the beginners get to hang out. It's 30% beginner, 30% intermediate, and 40% advanced, so a good mix of terrain here. The base of Hoodoo sits at just under 4,700 feet with 1,035 vertical feet, all of which you can access from the Big Green Machine, which is their quad that goes from the base to the summit. It also features a midway unloading point so that in case you don't want to go all the way to the top, you have options. So one thing's for sure, you'll never get tired of the views here. The views are incredible. You've got Three Finger Jack and Mount Jefferson to the north. To the south, you've got Mount Washington and the Three Sisters, and all the way to Diamond Peak, which is just awesome. I mean, the views are really incredible here. You can look at them all day.
So I love skiing. Been in love with it since I was a child. Something to being outside, fresh air and snow. And to this day, I can remember the very first time my father took us on a family vacation and we went skiing. That was the day that I fell in love with it. So when I was in college, I decided to take a semester off and ski. And the best way for a broke college student to accomplish this was to get a job at a ski resort. That's how I stumbled upon a job at the Hoodoo Mountain Ski Resort. And God, when I tell you I love this place, it's amazing. Beautiful views, friendly people, gorgeous women, and most importantly, all the skiing one can get. While working there, I bounced around from task to task, helping with terrain sculpting, cleaning bathrooms, and even some of the more dangerous stuff like de-icing the big green monster. And the monster that I'm referring to is a lift that carries visitors up the mountain. Understand, if that lift sits there for more than 48 hours and it's not being used, snow, ice start to build up on the gears. And that's dangerous. It could literally lock up with people suspended 30, 40 feet in the air. Now that you understand where I was, why I was there, let me get straight into the insanity that I saw while I was working there. Keep in mind, at this point in my life, I had never, ever heard of a Dogman, didn't know it existed, had no clue what it was. And for me, the first time seeing it, this animal was completely terrifying. We were outside at night sculpting snow. And for those of you who don't know much about how a ski resort is operated, trees grow where they want to. Snow falls where it wants to. So in order to make a safe place for visitors to ski, we have to use a bulldozer to move and sculpt the snow, making sure nothing is there that is going to hurt our visitors. We're outside, it's nighttime, and it's freezing cold. The way this worked was one person operated the dozer for 30 to 45 minutes, and then you would switch out. So the other person who was outside in the cold every 45 minutes got an opportunity to warm themselves up. This particular time, I'm outside in the cold. The dozer is about 150 yards away from me, pushing snow, standing about 45 yards away from the base of this ridge. Behind me, the ridge goes straight up, and there are these clusters of trees with open spaces in between them. Also, that ridge is lit up for night skiing, and those lights run horizontally across that ridge and then slope downwards. Those are off in the distance. I'm reaching into my pocket to get my cell phone with the intentions of just taking some pictures of what we're doing. And I remember this as clear as day. I had just bit down on my glove to take it off my hand and stuffed it into my pocket when I hear what sounds like a wolf howling behind me. Now, this is no big deal to me at all because we do have wolves out here. And as long as a pack of wolves are not running down on you, you should be fine. But nonetheless, I turn around, looking up the ridge from where I heard this sound, just to be safe, but don't see anything. Then I hear the sound again, but this time in the middle of the howl, it switches and becomes this loud, nasty, guttural growl that goes on for like 40 to 45 seconds. And now I'm thinking to myself, that ain't no damn wolf. Eyes scanning the ridge, you can see this giant, and I mean giant white wolf blending in with the snow, moving along the ridge. So you understand, I've seen wolves my entire life. The average wolf is 6 feet long. Above average wolf is about 7 feet long with a tail of 2 feet. So let's just say 8 to 9 feet in total if their tail is sticking out. And they weigh between 120 and at max to 200 pounds. This beast that I'm looking at is 11 feet long. Tail at least 3 to 4 feet. I say to myself, Lord Jesus Christ, what is that? Blake is now moving closer and closer to me in that dozer when this thing takes a few steps, gets next to this tree, and this thing stands up. And when I tell you it stands up, it stood up in the snow on a steep ridge like it was nothing. It just rose up, rolled its front shoulders back, stretched its neck forward, head moving up and then down, and then began to move its shoulders and front legs forward. Again, the freakiest, craziest shit I've ever seen. Now, standing on 2 legs, it steps over into those trees and is out of sight. Now, I'm thinking to myself, nope, not finna be anywhere near something like this. I have to put the bulldozer between me and it. So imagine me running through the snow. The bulldozer now about 50 to 60 yards away, and I'm trying to get to the other side of it. And now when Blake gets in front of me, he's pissed off and he's screaming like, dude, what the hell are you doing? Are you trying to die up here on this mountain? But I cannot take my eyes off that cluster of trees. He looks at me, looking at the trees, and says, listen, well, what did you see? What's going on? But I didn't tell him. I didn't need people around the resort thinking that I was crazy. But I tell you what, for the rest of that night, I put as much space as humanly possible between me and that ridge. But I'm on that following evening and have to help with the de-icing of the lift. And just so you'll understand, the de-icing of the lift happens the day before the park opens. So it's about 2 p.m. Now, to de-ice the lift, you literally got to climb all the way up top where the gears are. And you use a mallet to beat the ice off of these gears. So I'm up there banging away, wind blowing ice and snow back into my face, when I see this 6-point mule deer running full speed. It gets to the bottom of the steps where I had just climbed up, and it's looking back at the ridgeline, up at these trees, thinking to myself, man, what the hell is this deer doing? It looks up at me and then looks back at the ridgeline, looks up at me and then focuses on this section of trees on the ridgeline. And I need you to remember, this thing is white. It blends in with the snow extremely well. But as my eyes focus in closer and closer, there it is again, standing on two legs, breathing heavily like it had just finished chasing this deer. I'm telling you, this time this thing is looking at me like it's pissed, like it's saying to me, look, you messing up my dinner. You need to get the hell on out of the way or I'm going to get you. And I find myself in a dilemma as I realize that this deer ran over here to me because for some reason it believes that I'm going to protect it from that. And believe me, when I say to you, absolutely nothing on earth that I could do to help this deer. When you're de-icing, you have to carry these extra screws and bolts with you. Reason being, while you're up there, if you see something loose or broken, you replace it or repair it, right? So I dig into my bag and get one of those huge cap screw hex bolts, right? Throw it down, hit the deer in the back, and it takes off running down the ridge. Now listen to this. When it takes off, the wolf takes off too. And let me explain something to you. If you've ever heard anybody say that they outran one of these creatures, they lying. They are a liar straight from the devil in hell himself. Because what I saw happen next was just mind-blowing. It took his first 10 steps running on his hind legs, then leaped into the air like a freaking transformer, rolling his shoulders forward, dipping his head down, hitting the ground, landing on all fours without missing a stride, and takes off around the ridge, paralleling this deer. Now, there's no doubt in my mind that that thing had that deer for dinner. Based on what I saw, no doubt whatsoever. But you gotta understand, I'm still up on top of this tower. There's no way I cannot finish this job because the park has to open tomorrow. So now, every time I climb down the tower, I'm running full speed, sprinting to the next freaking tower. Because there's no way on a planet that I want that death machine chasing after me. Because I could guarantee you that I will be on the menu.
Simple Jack, yeah, you went all out on that one, huh? You did. Really swung for the fences, huh?
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks. Yeah. Yeah, it was an intense experience. You know, I just did the work. Watched a lot of retarded people. Spent time with them, observed them. Watched all the retarded stuff they did. But, you know, there were times when I was doing Jack that I actually felt retarded, like really retarded.
Damn.
In a weird way, I had to sort of just free myself up to believe that it was okay to be stupid or dumb.
To be a moron.
Yeah.
To be moronical.
Exactly. To be a moron.
An imbecile.
Yeah.
Like the dumbest motherfucker that ever lived. Stupid ass Jack.
By the end of the whole thing, I was like, wait a minute, you know? I flushed so much out, how am I gonna jumpstart it up again? It's just like...
Yeah.
Yeah, right?
You was farting in bathtubs and laughing your ass off.
Yeah. I mean, it was just really it was crazy.
It's like working with mercury. You're serious? You don't know. Everybody knows you never go full retard.
What do you mean?
You went full retard, man. Never go full retard.
I awaken to my dogs growling and barking. Once outside, I see Rex and Star, noses pinned against the chain link fence. On the other side, a monster, 5 feet tall on all fours. Then it growls back, and they take off running. I should have known that listening to these crazy ass people on the internet was going to be a problem. It's harmless, they said. It's not flesh and blood, they said. It's demonic, they said. They're not aggressive, they said. Well, guess what? That thing right there looks very fucking aggressive to me. And now I'm here all alone. My dogs have retreated under the house. It all started when I went to the Dogman Facebook group. Why? Because I was looking for help with my issues. Now, first problem I ran into was I didn't have a real computer, just my cell phone. So when I posted my pictures, some of them were kind of blurry and I got all kinds of toxic comments. Some people said there were 10 Dogmen and 2 Bigfoot in the picture. Other people just said it was pareidolia, and other people said I was crazy for posting pictures with nothing in it but leaves. But I figured this was one of the biggest groups out there. These people had to know what the hell they were talking about. It's not like there's a cable news channel for people who deal with werewolves. So where else am I going to find help? But boy, was I wrong. I told them my story and how one of my dogs had been killed, ripped apart, and that I witnessed a giant black wolf do it, just like the black wolf that they showed in the variants pictures. Now I know I fucked up, but I took their advice. And that's what led to me being face to face with this creature. The only thing separating me from it, my flimsy metal fence. And listen to me, when I tell you I used everything that these people told me, I used the AR-15, I used the AK-47. Nothing I shot at this creature worked. Now, I can tell you what I know for sure about Dogman. I'm absolutely certain about this. Dogman is strong, and it's fucking sadistic. It could have jumped the fence and killed me. Nope, it ripped the fencing from the post and threw it at me. Imagine for a moment a section of 15-foot fence flying through the air at your freaking head. Now that wasn't enough for the Dogman because it ripped the fence post out of the ground and threw it on the roof. That entire night I was stalked. It didn't matter what room of the house I tried to hide in, it was at that exterior wall. When I went into the attic, it was on the roof, scratching the roof, twisting doorknobs, scratching windows. But what I still don't understand is why it didn't just come in the house and kill me, because it damn sure could have. Now listen to this. 3 days after my encounter, I'm referred to one of the most popular Dogman YouTubers in the community. It takes him a week to get back to me, and when I do finally speak to him, he's only interested in interviewing me. And so I reach out to another Dogman YouTuber who never gets back to me. After that, I reached out to this channel, and the advice was very simple. Do you own the house? No, I replied, I rent. Then break the lease and move. Move over 200 miles away, or it's going to eventually kill you. Understand, I didn't have that kind of money, and I was in between paychecks. Then, as I searched for houses, I discovered that the only one available wanted a $900 deposit. Now, I want you to ask me how many dollars. How many dollars do you think I had at this point in time? $175. Just enough to rent a moving truck and one-day laborer to help me move all my stuff. So I called one of those storage centers, right? Tell them I need to put my stuff in storage, and they only had an outdoor unit. So guess what? I put my stuff there, and I lived there for the next 30 days, long enough for me to make a paycheck, pay the fees for breaking the lease, and get the deposit I needed for the next house and the fucking utilities. Now, looking back on it, I wish I wouldn't have never ever saw Dogman. But since I did see it, I wish I would have just left it the hell alone. Guess what? It tore up one of my dogs. Fuck it. I should have just left it alone. Guess what? It wanted to scratch on the roof. Fuck it. Scratch the roof all you want. I should have just packed up and moved.
Look, I'm here in Kentucky. For the most part, all is quiet. far enough away from the city, well, the politics really don't affect me. And the virus stuff, well, only time I have to deal with that is when I'm up at the mailbox place, or God forbid, I have to go to Walmart. But what I do have to contend with is the wildlife. Deers, hogs, every now and then a dogman, but mainly the Bigfoots. Now, not used to being around Bigfoots, then it's pretty frightening. However, I grew up around these people. Yes, I call them people because that's what my daddy called them. The people of the hollows. Now, for the most part, those people of the hollows stay isolated in their areas until there's a problem. Problem being defined as other predators that come into the area, or if there's a problem with the family unit and structure. And those events can be completely confusing for people who are not used to being around Bigfoots. Why? Because you have no clue as to what's going on, and we as humans tend to treat everything as a threat. Now, with that said, I started to see this male Bigfoot every day. Real big fella, about 10 feet tall. He would just be walking around in a circle in the wood lines. And he looked a lot like he was pissed off, just mumbling and talking to himself. Did I perceive it as a problem? Now, the first lesson you learn being around the Bigfoots is if they're not bothering you, don't bother them. Treat them like any other person. You never know what the hell they got going on in their world, just like they never know what the hell we have going on in ours. So I leave them alone, stay away from them, but I keep an eye on them. Then one evening, I'm out at my cow pasture and find one of my cows laid out next to the fence, and the closer I get, she's bleeding heavily and prolapse. This cow was not calving. Now listen, when I get right up on that heifer, I see there's semen everywhere. 2 days later, I find another one of my heifers. It's not calving, it's not in the process of calving, but the same condition. So my son and I decide we're going to stake out the pasture at night. We're out there, 1 a.m., night vision goggles on, and over the fence jumps that same Bigfoot, chases down one of my cows, and starts fucking it. Listen, my son and I are sitting there looking at this, and I said, oh hell no, you not finna come over here fucking my cows and costing me all this money. Now, I'm climbing out of the truck, taking shots, shooting just above his head, but he ain't stopping. So we turn on the headlights, start to run down on him. My son is hanging out the window, shooting over his head. Listen to me, and only when he saw the headlights from my truck running down on him did this Bigfoot stop ramming my cow, turn, and jump back over the fence. See, right then and there's when I realized I had a major problem on my hands, because there's no way that I could stay up every night and guard my cows in my pasture from these Bigfoots. So my wife and I came up with the idea of clearing the wood lines, kinda as a punishment for the Bigfoots encroaching on our property. So we did it. We out there cutting down trees, dragging them off, when these big, huge, gigantic chunks of logs come flying through the air, bouncing on the ground, landing right next to us. Then the screaming starts, next to growling and the tree shaking. Now understand, I'm pretty sure I done pissed this Bigfoot off. But what he didn't understand was he done pissed me off, because he's cost me thousands of dollars getting my heifers fixed, having veterinarians come to the property. So at this point in time, we got us an issue. So my son and I head back to the house, get extra rifles, get extra ammunition, and we get into the woods looking for this Bigfoot. 30 minutes pass, 45 minutes pass, an hour passes of us searching, trying to find this Bigfoot, but we can't find him. But like I done told you, these the people of the woods. Bigfoots ain't stupid. So I gets to talking to it. And I said, look, can't be coming down here fucking my cows. You and I ain't never had no problems. But if you keep coming around here fucking with me, I'm gonna have to kill you. My son is standing there looking at me like I'm absolutely crazy. But then, we can't see it, but you can clearly hear it walking away. Listen, a solid week passes, nothing has happened. The vet has been out there to tend to the cows, it's all quiet, until my granddaughter tells me that the hairy man reached into her window last night. Understand, it's one thing for these Bigfoots to be fucking my cows, but it's a whole nother story when you done touch my granddaughter. So that same day, I called my buddy Shane. We track into those woods west of the pasture, following broken tree limbs and branches, and we travel for miles before we hit this thick wall of brush. Understand, this wasn't a natural wall. You can tell this had been stacked up over time because there was layers and layers of dead old foliage and briars on the ground, but on the top it was this new and fresh green foliage. Understand, none of it had roots into the ground. It was clearly picked up and stacked in this area. Now Shane believed that this was one of their hunting blinds or one of their barriers. They would stay there, hide behind this area. When a deer or a hog moved through, they would hop out, grab it, and drag it to the other side. Now understand, there was no way around it, there was no way through it, there was no way over it. The only way to get through this was to get down on your stomach and crawl through the bottom. And understand, I'm pissed off. So now I'm crawling, rifle in hand. Shane is pushing my feet to help me get through. Then he shoves the gas container that we were carrying through the same hole that I crawled through. Picture me, gas can in one hand, rifle in the other hand. I'm thinking that Shane is coming through that hole right behind me. So I'm walking 10 yards, 20 yards, 30 yards, 40 yards. Again, thinking that Shane's ass is right there behind me, no more than 30, 40 yards, watching my back. I would say I had moved about 70, 75 yards when I realized I'm not hearing any footfalls from Shane behind me. But then limbs begin to snap, growling starts, trees start shaking, and I can hear Shane screaming, "Come back! Come back! Hurry up! Come back!" Was I nervous? Was I afraid? Yes, but I was more pissed off than any one of those two. So I sling my rifle across my back, take that jerry can, pop the lid, hold it under my arm, turn around, start running as fast as I can, spilling gas on the ground all over the place as I'm running back to their little makeshift barrier wall. Now, as I'm running, I can hear these Bigfoots closing in on me from every angle. And I admit to you, I started to panic, dropped the gas can. Next thing you know, I'm diving on the ground, sliding back through that same hole that I crawled through. Shane is grabbing my arms, yanking and pulling me through. Now, on the outside of that wall, I'm searching through my pockets, looking for a lighter, arguing with Shane, saying, "Hey man, what happened to the lighter? I'm about to burn all this shit down." When Shane starts to talk sense to me. What's happening, ladies and gentlemen? It's your boy Dog Waters, and this is a members only story. So here's what I'm gonna need you to do. You got a whole bunch of options as to how you can deal with this. You can head on over to imdogwaters.com and sign up for $4.99 a month. You're gonna get immediate access. Or if you're one of those people who say, "I don't like to use PayPal, they be robbing and jacking and stealing," you can still head over to imdogwaters.com, hit the membership tab, click Cash App, send the Cash App. Now, if you read the instructions under where Cash App is, it's a hell of a deal that's running for you. You know what I'm saying? You get free months if you rock that way, because I respect cash. You know what I'm saying? So, either way it go, I got a way for you to access this content. Head on over to imdogwaters.com and check it out today. Peace. I've listened to a lot of Dogman Encounters and stories. Started by listening to the guy with the weird, creepy voice. And then I listen to every channel out there, but not as a fan. Frankly, I think it's weird how people obsess over these animals. I mean, you don't obsess over great white sharks or giant squids or freaking endangered turtles. But when it comes to Dogman, people obsess over this animal. And that's what it is. Nothing more than an animal. How do I know? Because I've encountered it multiple times. And after figuring out exactly what it was up to, I found myself pissed off. It started last year during this COVID lockdown. For the first time in my life, I was laid off and found myself at home
being Mr. Mom. And if that wasn't bad enough, my daughter was going through the change. So she was an emotional roller coaster. One minute she's happy, the next minute she's sad. And on top of that, they were homeschooling. So there was no way to escape the sheer madness. While I'm trying to wrap my mind around the situation of me being unemployed, not knowing when I'm going to get another job, and dealing with my highly emotional daughter, Dogman starts with his freaking bullshit. You see, we live in Easton, Texas, not far from the lake. It's about 11 p.m. when my daughter comes frantically running into the living room, telling me that someone was watching her through the bedroom window while she was changing her clothes. And I pause here for a moment because I didn't take this too seriously. Number one, this is Texas. Number two, this is a small town in Texas. Number three, people know you don't do that kind of stuff because you will get shot. The nearest neighbor is a half a mile away. So naturally, I think my daughter is being a drama queen. But just to ease her nerves, I get the shotgun and head outside. Hell, the thing wasn't even loaded. I circle around the house. There's nothing there. Come back inside, comfort her, and we go to bed. Now the next day, I just so happened to be outside mainly because I wanted to get a break from being locked down in the house. And I noticed these scratch marks were on each side of the window, like someone was standing there looking through the window, but scratching along the side of the house at the same time. Standing there looking at this, I start to think to myself, maybe there actually is something to what my daughter was saying after all. So that day I replaced the burnt out flood light bulbs that I had outside just to give the place some extra lighting. But 3 a.m. that morning, my wife and I are awakened to my daughter coming into our bedroom, scared out of her mind, saying something was outside of her window and growling. So I grabbed my Mossberg shotgun, put on shoes, and head outside, only to discover that the floodlights that I had just replaced had been unscrewed, taken out of the socket, and laid on the ground. Now I need you to understand, my floodlights are 12 feet up in the air. I personally have to have a ladder to climb up there and replace them. So now I'm starting to worry. I head back inside, get my flashlight, come back out, and I'm scanning the edge of the property line. And that's when I first get a glimpse of it. It's up in the tree 30 yards away, and it looks like a freaking werewolf from TV. Gray and black fur, pointy ears that are twitching, huge yellow eyes with these gigantic black pupils. Let me tell you, this SOB is just looking at me like I wish you would point that shotgun at me. Now, I don't know if you ever find yourself in a situation like this where you're facing down something that you're absolutely terrified of. For me, my mind began to focus and there was this clarity of thought. I was able to see the moisture on its snout even though it was dark outside. And I thought to myself, you know what? If you take a shot at this creature with this shotgun and it don't work, there's no way you're going to be able to get into that house and protect you and your family. So I turn around, run back inside, close, and lock the door. That night, my daughter spent the rest of that night in the bedroom with me and my wife. Now, as for me, while the two of them were sleeping, I was awake wrestling with this problem. My mind just going left, right, up and down. What is it? Where did it come from? Why is it here? What can I do to protect them? And that's how I started to reach out to people. The very next day is when I started listening to shows, interviews, stories, trying to find someone I could reach out to and talk to about my problem. Now, the issue that I ran into was that everyone wanted me to do some type of interview. And I'm trying to explain to these people, listen to me, I have a problem I need to deal with. I don't want to talk about it. I need to be about it. This is a problem. What can you tell me to do to fix it? So after talking to about 15 people, I learned that it could possibly have been my daughter's menstrual cycle that triggered the activity and caused this creature to focus in on her in a room. And a few days later, I was given a chemical solution, something that you could mix together and spray around the property. So I gave it a try. And sure enough, no more Dogman activity. Then, the following month, when my daughter's cycle first started, I decided to test it. I didn't spray, and we started to hear scratching and growling outside. The next morning, I sprayed, nothing. Halfway through her cycle, it rains. Next thing you know, it's back, scratching and looking through the windows. Everything inside of me
wanted to shoot this creature, but I had been warned that shooting it would only make things worse. So I sprayed again, and it left. Now, here's a couple of things I took away from my experience with Dogman. Number one, they're real. And the second thing is, they're clearly attracted to the hormones or the smells or whatever it is that comes off a young woman's menstrual cycle. The situation I find myself in is that I have to keep spraying the wood line around my property. And these ingredients that I'm buying aren't cheap, and I'm pretty sure they're on some kind of federal watch list. But honestly, I have no choice. I keep buying it on Amazon because I don't want that creature coming back to my property. And if, by some strange coincidence, the feds show up at my house and start asking me questions about, am I building bombs or making explosives, I'm just going to tell them straight up, I'm glad you're here. I got a freaking werewolf on my property. If you want to help me with that, I'll be more than happy to stop ordering this stuff on Amazon.
He went on a long rant about everybody wanting to be gangster to stuff. Everybody wants to be a gangster.
Shit, he ain't lying, my nigga. Our minds are being controlled. Everybody want to be gangster, nigga. Everybody playing gangster till it's time to be gangster.
So, according to my wife, the entire Dogman thing for a little while kind of drove me crazy. I understand why some people call it a cult. Over time, I've done extensive research into the subject and looked into the backgrounds of many of the people involved as Dogman personalities. A few of the people have criminal records, and some don't have any records of existing at all. Others are hidden behind shelf corporations. Now, I'll tell you, once you really dig down deep into the world of Dogman, it's extremely crazy. But after a while, doing internet research is not enough. You gotta go to the next level. And I came to the conclusion that I need to see one of these creatures for myself. So I decided to travel to all the places that people said were hubs for Dogman. Germantown, Bray Road. But it wasn't until I traveled down to the south to Mississippi, right outside of Taylor, that things quickly got out of control. Now, when I tell you I've been researching this a long time, I have. So I came up with my own formula. And I devised that if you want to see a Dogman, you need to find a piece of property where there's a high possibility of these creatures transversing the area. Then you need to cut some kind of deal with that landowner to get access. Now, I know what I'm saying seems like common sense, but the majority of the witnesses I've personally spoken to, they just violate and wander off on the people's land. So I head on down to Taylor, Mississippi, and I'm trying to get someone to give me access to their property. Now, I'm there for a full day, knocking on doors, trying to talk to people. And let me tell you something. The people in that area really don't want to be bothered about this at all. And I guess word starts to get around. So the next day I'm at the gas station when this guy pulls up on me and says, "Hey, you another one of those Dark Waters fellas coming up here looking for trouble?" Now, his tone is not really confrontational, but he's talking in a stern manner. Now, to me, that seemed like a setup question, and I didn't know how to reply. So I says, "Yeah, I've heard of Dark Waters, and I know for a long time he's been telling people not to come to this place. And in fact, he's been super silent about Taylor for the past couple of years. But I know the man, and he's a good guy." He smiles at me and says, "Really? So you know him?" Now, I'm thinking to myself, maybe I shouldn't have name dropped, because this guy doesn't seem to be impressed with it at all. In fact, he seems a little bit agitated. He goes on to say, "Well, that's good, but I don't care who you know. We still don't like people coming up here messing around on our property." Now, I'm in a pickle. I had just name dropped. So it's risky, but I double down. "Well, sir, do you actually know who he is? Because I just talked to him the other day, and I can tell you he'll vouch for me. I'm a good guy. I'm not here to cause any troubles." He starts to laugh and says, "Really? So you can call him?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I can call him right now." Imagine this. I'm standing there about 5 feet away from this guy. He's leaning on the bed of his truck, pulling out my cell phone, dialing a number, and I get sent straight to voicemail. I dial again, and I get sent straight to voicemail. Talk about being embarrassed. Then he turns around, opens the door to his truck, pulls out his cell phone, starts dialing, puts it on speakerphone as it rings, and I hear Doc Waters answering the phone saying, "Yo, hey brother, everything all right up there?" He says, "Yeah, James, everything is all right. How you and the family? I'm up here at the gas station and I ran into a fella who says he knows you. I'm pretty sure this guy's an adventurer like some of the other people who've been up here." Now I'm embarrassed because I know I had the right number and he sent me the voicemail, but he answered for this guy. So sheepishly I say, "Hey DW, it's Alex John. How are you?" "What's up, Alex? What you doing down there, baby?" "Well, I'm trying to get access to property the right way, like you suggested." He cuts me off and says, "What I suggested is that you don't go there. But if you do decide to go there and not just violate walking around on people's property in the middle of the night, because you will get a bullet in your ass." Doc Waters goes on to vouch for me anyway and tells me that the man standing in front of me, John, has land right by Lake Sardis. But I don't know if you've ever talked to him because he has a way of complimenting you and insulting you all at the same time. He says, "Look, you about to cross into the danger zone, but you're a grown man. Do your thing. This is America, land of the free and home of the brave. I'm not here to stop you from doing anything. You're a smart guy, but right now you're acting very stupid. But you go do what you want to do." He tells John to take him off the speakerphone. They talk for a few seconds, and I hear John saying, "All right then, I'll holler at you later." John puts his phone back in his pocket and says, "Well, James just told me it might be a lot of you fellas coming in our direction, and I should make some money off of you." He says, "I tell you what, I give you access to my land over there by the lake. 2 days, $200. Now, before any words could come out of my mouth, he says, "Look, a couple of things. Number one, I ain't coming out there with you. Number two, I'm not escorting you there. Number three, whatever happens to you is on you while you're out there. Oh, and one more thing, there's no cell phone coverage in that area. So when you get out there, you're on your own. There is no power. The nearest light source is 2 miles away. This is how this is going to go. You give me $200. I give you the directions and the access codes that get you into my gate." Have you ever found yourself in one of those situations where you really, really wanted something, but then you get right to that moment where you can seize upon it and you hesitate? That's what was going on with me right then and there. And he must have sensed that hesitation because he says, "Look, take a few minutes to think about it. I got to run in the store, get a few things. When I come back out, you can give me your decision." Now, while this man is in the gas station, my mind is rewinding and replaying this series of events. And the first thing that sticks out to me is how in the hell did he know where I was? Now, of course, I had spent the day before talking to a whole bunch of landowners, but could people in this town be talking to each other that much that he would confront me at the gas station? Now, the other thing that really didn't sit in well with me was the fact that he called Doc Waters and he answered immediately. Now, the familiarity of their tone, the way they talked, and his body language told me a lot. These two had talked more than once. They knew each other. So now my mind is racing. Okay, so is Doc Waters setting me up? Is this guy setting me up? Is the whole town conspiring against me? What the fuck is going on? Like anybody else, I'm conflicted. Part of me is saying, yo, this is a terrible idea. But simultaneously, another part of me is saying, look, this is what you came in for. You got what you asked for. Now, for those of you listening to me right now, you know for a fact there's been decisions in your life that you have to make where you have to battle both sides, and it's a we decision, not just a you decision. This was a we decision, and we decided to do it. A few minutes later, John comes walking out of the store and says, well, I gotta go. Have you made up your mind what you're gonna do? And I'm like, yes, we're gonna do it. And that look comes across his face like, this dude is crazy. He just said we. Reaching for my wallet to grab $200 cash, he opens the door to his vehicle, grabs a notepad and starts writing on it. Hands over to me a piece of paper with the code and directions to his property. Then he goes to the bed of his truck, opens the hatch, and gets out one of those N95 masks, the respirator type, and hands me this spray bottle. I'm standing there looking at him with the expression on my face like, what the hell is this? And he says, Doc Waters asked me to give you this, just in case. If things get crazy out there, put this mask on and spray this all over yourself, your car, and everything else, and it will help you. Now, naturally, the first question I ask this man is, well, what is it? He kind of rudely shakes his head at me and says, son, take it or leave it. Honestly, I don't give a shit what you decide to do. Hops in his truck and pulls off. Now, standing there watching him pull off, all my confidence in doing this begins to melt away because I'm saying to myself, okay, what the hell am I getting myself into? What is in this container? I don't think I can do this. Reality starts to set in. I'm thinking about going home. I got an address. I got codes. I got everything. So I call my wife and I get her opinion on it. I explained to her exactly how everything went down. My wife is one of those overly positive people. She says, well, honey, you did want to experience something. You went to Taylor, Mississippi looking for something. You found what you're looking for. You should at least give it a try. All you need to do is hang around there for a few hours and get out of there as soon as the sun goes down. That's something that you can do, darling. You're brave enough to do that. Give it at least 1 hour after sundown and get the hell out of there. Now, my confidence recharged from my wife's moral support. I decide, look, I'm going to head over there, and the objective is to stay there at least until sundown. When I get there, you have to drive off the road and into the woods. This little road that I'm driving on is bumpy. You ride for about 50 yards into the road, and you get to this swing gate. When you get out, there's a lockbox attached to a pole. And literally from the time I got out of my vehicle to get that key and unlock that gate, I felt like something was watching me. For real, no bullshit, like eyes were looking at me from every direction. Now, the area has these dense trees. Then underneath those trees is this thick underbrush. Standing there, you can hear stuff moving around in the distance, but it's still broad daylight. And honestly, even though I'm a little bit freaked out, I don't feel threatened in any way. So I open the gate, leaving it open, and drive through. Now pause for a minute right here because I got to tell you a little bit more about the direction and a couple of things that John says. On a piece of paper, it said, drive until you get to a clearing in the wood with old construction equipment. Turn your car around and park facing the direction you came. The next two things were underlined. Do not leave your car. Keep your car in sight at all times. Now, mind you, it's broad daylight. I done traveled a long way to get here. I done spent $200. And I'm like, screw that. No matter what, I'm getting out of the car. And sure enough, when I pull up, there's a clearing and there's this old rusty bulldozer. Now, rolling the windows down to see if I get any scents in the area, everything smells perfect, just like the woods should smell. No smell of sulfur, blood, wet copper coins, none of that. It smells like it's supposed to smell when you're in the woods. So I decided to get out and start walking around looking for tracks. And for anybody who knows anything about tracking, you know that the best way to find tracks is to work around in circles. So I start walking in 10-yard circles, 20-yard circles, 30-yard circles, 40-yard circles. Now I'm starting to get pretty far away from the car and closer to this thick brush that I was telling you about. Now, it's a little spooky being close to this thick brush, but everything is still normal. Birds are chirping, the sun is coming through the trees, and the woods feel like the woods are supposed to feel. The problem is, I'm not seeing any tracks. So I head back to my vehicle. When I get there, there's this smudge on the driver's side window. And this smudge wasn't there when I walked away. Not a handprint, not a fingerprint, a thumbprint, but just this smudge like something wet brushed up against the window. Getting in the car, I adjust the mirrors, pointing them in directions that allow me to see both sides and behind the vehicle. Now listen, I pick up the phone to call my wife just to let her know that I'm in the area, but just like he said, there's no signal. Then, this point in time is when all the crazy shit starts to happen. I put the phone down in the cup holder. Now I'm checking my rifle that's on the front seat just to make sure I'm prepared in case anything crazy happens. When a text message comes through on the phone. No number associated with this text message. No signal. And it says, sundown, leave. And as I'm reading this message, I feel this gentle bump on my car like someone is pushing it from behind. Now, mentally, I'm able to justify away the text message thinking it's my wife texting me. But the bump to the car that I felt was real. There was no explaining that whatsoever. Nervously, I get out of the car, head to the rear, and guess what I find? More smudge marks. Not handprints, not claw prints. Smudge marks on the back of the trunk. Now remember, I'm outside, but why? Please explain to me why my body is feeling cold, like I'm surrounded by this bubble of cold air. Something was wrong, man. So now I'm back in the car, grab my cell phone, take a look, and the battery is down to 33%. Just before I got out of the damn car, the battery was at 80%. While I'm holding it, looking at it, another text message comes through and it says, too late. Now, this moment in time, you can hear footsteps running away from the car. And I'm like, okay, this is too much. Fuck it, I'm leaving right now. You go to crank the car up and it's not turning over. You know how your car sounds when your starter goes out, but it's pulling on a battery, that click, 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 click. That's what I'm hearing, and panic sets in. Talking to myself out loud, I say, no, 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 no. There is no way I am getting stranded out here. I grab my rifle, open a trunk, and get my battery charged. Now, I'm under the hood, connecting the charge, and it's reading the battery is low. Now, I can't explain any of this to you. To this day, it doesn't make sense to me. But now I'm starting to get a little bit afraid because it's going on about 4 o'clock and the sun is starting to go down behind these trees. To be clear with you, I'm not hearing things, nothing's moving, but nonetheless, I know where I'm at and this fear is starting to set in. And I know that I'm afraid because I start doing stupid shit. For the next 20 minutes, I sit inside the vehicle thinking that the battery's charging, and when I get back out, I've got the terminals connected the wrong way. So now I find myself back outside of the car under the hood, connecting the terminals in the right way when I feel a tap on my shoulder. Looking around, no one is there. But I ain't crazy. I know what I felt. Someone tapped me on my shoulder. Listen to me closely because I need you to understand the situation that I'm in. It's getting dangerously close to the sun being all the way down behind those trees, and I start to hear these screeching sounds off in the distance. Sounds that I've never heard before. It wasn't no bird, it wasn't a coyote, it was nothing like anything. So now I'm back inside of my vehicle trying to crank it up and it still won't turn over. It's no longer clicking, it's trying to turn over and it's almost there, but for whatever reason, it just won't turn on. Now, it's really getting dark outside. My headlights are working, my interior lights are working, the radio works, but the car won't turn on. The screeching sounds are getting a little bit louder and a hell of a lot closer. And I'm saying to myself, this shit has turned out to be an epic disaster. And then to make things worse, I see what looks like light coming from the trees, but it turns out that it's a set of headlights. And now I say to myself, holy crap, the last thing I need is some kind of random person coming to this area because I did not close the gate, and full panic sets in. As the vehicle gets closer and closer, I realize that it's a wildlife and fisheries truck, and I'm like, thank you, God. Someone is here that can help me. But I'll tell you, the look on this man's face says it all. He hops out of the truck and says, where is John? I tell him that John gave me access to this property for 2 days, but he's nowhere around. Now, he's standing there looking at the woods, looking at me, looking at my car. He looks again at the woods, looks at me, looks at my car. Now, he's giving me the impression that he's debating whether or not he should even think about freaking helping me. You can tell that this man is not just nervous, he's afraid to be here because he's doing the Indian head bob, his head rolling around in circles, looking in every direction as he's talking to me. He says, now John knows better than to have people out here on this piece of property alone and at night. I don't know what the hell John is thinking about. I don't know what the hell he was thinking about. You need to get. Now, where I'm from, there's a difference between someone telling you you need to leave versus someone telling you you need to get. When someone tells you you need to get, it's kind of like they leaving the rest of the sentence off. It means you need to get your ass up out of here. I explained to him, listen, sir, I don't want to be here at all. I'm trying to get the hell out of here, but my car won't start. Is there any kind of way that you can give me a jump? And again, he's standing there doing the Indian head roll, eyes darting in every direction. And he says, John didn't tell you nothing about this land before he let you out here? None of the crazy stuff that goes on out here. You don't know about none of that? As he's talking to me, you hear that screeching sound in the distance. Now, that sound cuts the whole entire conversation short because it's closer than it was before. He pulls his truck up, hooks up some jumper cables, and now we're both outside of the vehicle trying to keep cool. But again, you hear this screeching sound, and this time it's very, very close to us. Casually, I say to him, you know, I've heard a lot of things out in the woods, but I ain't never heard anything like that. What is it? Again, you know how a nervous person looks when they're trying to keep their cool, when they're scared, but they're trying to act like they're brave? That's how this man looks. He says, well, that is the reason why we need to get the hell from around here. As he goes on talking, he starts to look a little bit pissed off, and he says, whoever told you you should come out here, them people ain't your friends. Understand? They not your friends. Seconds later, and I do mean seconds later, my car is started, and now I'm driving out. He's riding right behind me up on my tail. We get through the gate, and he starts blowing the horn, rolling the window down. I hear him screaming, no, you can't leave. You got to lock this gate back up. We can't have nobody going back there. Now, listen, I'm outside of my car, and it's dark, man. I mean dark, fumbling. And I tell you, my eyes weren't playing tricks on me, but when you look over into the woods, I see multiple, each of them reflecting red from the tail lights of his truck. Now he's literally in his truck, windows rolled down, screaming, come on, man, we need to get. Put it in there, we need to get. Key. Now back inside the lockbox. Me, back inside my vehicle, moving down the road. He follows me to the first gas station we see. Pulls up next to me, rolls his window down. He says, sir, you gotta be the luckiest son of a bitch that I know. I was driving down the highway and something told me I needed to go check on John's property. And when I get there, I find you out there in the middle of them woods stranded. Listen to me, fella. Don't do no dumb shit like that no more. I don't know where you from, but you need to get the hell from around here. You need to get, and you need to hurry up, and you need to get before I call the sheriff and he arrests you. Then he pulls off. Now looking down at my phone to call my wife and tell her what the hell happened, there's another text message, no number associated with it, that says woof. Now listen to me, I don't know what kind of fuckery is going on in the general vicinity of Taylor, Mississippi, but I can promise you something. I'm not going my ass nowhere near that place. Those eyes that I saw shining in the woods was big, man. I'm talking about McDonald's cheeseburger size big eyes in the woods. You got to be crazy. Think about going there.